Hi, it's Tim from Toy Tinker Tim, and I'm working on a vintage G.I. Joe Adventure Team Lifeline Catapult in this episode. There are some tune-ups with a silverized plastic surface. Some parts have come undone from gluing, and the elastic has lost its hold. I'll share the steps I took, and we'll take a closer look when I'm done at this fun vintage G.I. Joe action-packed toy. First off, I'm starting with one of these Lifeline catapults that's honestly in pretty good shape. All of the parts are here, and the decal is in really nice shape. There's no melt marks in the plastic. However, I did a test fire of the catapult and began to find out that the gluing done in manufacturing has given out. The handle on the Lifeline cord tube has come loose, and the assembly essentially flew into pieces. So I'll clean those sections up before regluing them. The front faceplate, that glue failure actually works out to be a good thing, for this project at least. It'll give me easier access to work with the elastic and come up with a way to resolve the mirrored plastic losing its finish. The mirrored plastic lost a majority of that silver-like finish, especially in the center here. It seems like an unusual decision to put the finish on the top of the plastic, the surface here, where it would surely wear off from play and just exposure. But I'm sure it was a budget made decision to do it that way. The actual grappling hook is in good shape. The vinyl is still flexible. There's no melt marks or discoloration, any staining to it. The catapult chamber tube spring, it's got some rust going there. That's formed over it. So I'll be cleaning and treating the spring with some 3-in-1 oil, applying that with a cotton swab, kind of cleaning out that area. And from what I've found in researching this action-packed toy is that some of the catapults were made with that window here at the top, and some just simply were not. So if yours doesn't have it, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's gone missing. It just might have been one of those that was made without the window, the viewer here. The elastic on this pack here has some grip to it, but it has really become stretched out. It's not very snug of a grip. It won't hold up on a figure anymore, so I'll be replacing that as well. So I'm going to start with the silverized plastic, getting that addressed first. I've looked at replacing it with a section of mirrored plexiglass, but that wouldn't match the look of the original with the reflection material being under the plastic. And I don't believe the original would have had that highly of a reflective surface by the design of this to begin with. Auto supply stores sell a chrome type tape, silverized thin plastic tape, but I don't need a whole roll of that tape either just floating around for this project. So even though it might seem like a lot of work, I'm going to craft one from a soda can section of aluminum, and using double-sided archival tape then to attach it to the surface over the original. I've cut out a section from a soda can and taped it to this cardstock to polish it. I'm removing the printed surface printing here, and the reverse side I feel will be a good surface for the adhesive. So to remove the printing on the aluminum, I'm using 3000 grit sandpaper with a little WD-40 applied to help cut into that. It's a series of sanding and polishing. You could go to a hobby store and probably get a section of polished metal there to go with a mirrored plexiglass maybe, or use the mirror like silver tape. But I'm just going for buying up less bulk and having that material just lie around. Plus having a reflective surface to me here with this, it mimics the original appearance closer. And that's always a goal of mine in repairs and restoration. So after the manual sanding, I've applied a cleaner wax to further polish and protect that shine. And I've used a rotary polishing wheel to achieve that final mirror-like finish. So I've cut this paper thin aluminum down to the size and shape of the original and used the double-sided archival tape to attach it over the original. I think the appearance of this final work is a fair approximation of how the original toys feature functioned and looked. It's not overly mirrorized, but it's got that shiny reflective look to it. So now I'm going to move on to the elastic belt replacement. The buckles, the hardware is all there. Nothing's missing. I have elastic I had bought to replace elastic on other G.I. Joe Adventure Team toys, so I've got a good match already to begin with for supplies. And before I start to cut and remove the buckle hardware, I'm taking careful measurements of even the overlap of the elastic that's sewn around the buckles. I want my restoration work here on this to be as accurate as possible to the original manufacturing. So I'm not sure if you can see it here, but there is a double row of stitching at the clasp section. There's one row of stitching right next to the metal part and another row of stitching next to the end where the elastic has been trimmed off at. And then I'll be doing my repair to match that detail as well. The little metal buckles here were cleaned up using baking soda and water mixed into a paste and scrubbed around in that. Just enough to get the tarnish off, but not removing the finish. After measuring out the amount of elastic needed to overlap the buckle pieces, I'm holding those sections down in place with just some of the tape so they don't slide on me. Here's a look at my hand-sewn repair. I was able to get that double row stitching going on. I had just sewn right through the tape to make sure that my ends stayed down flat here. And I'll work the scrap bits of tape off here as I finish my repairs, but I'd say that step turned out pretty well too. With the elastic taken care of, I'm ready to go ahead and rejoin the two halves of the shell here. The mirrorized section will always be open by design, so it's just um, periodic cleaning, and that can always be done. While the main section was open, I went ahead and oiled and cleaned the spring mechanism in the launcher as well. So now that I've made the repairs and restorations on this Lifeline Catapult action pack, let's take a look at it now in detail and in action. The action pack accessory is hard to find, in good to functioning condition, because it is fun to operate. In the hands of kids, it would have had lots of playtime. The side-mounted catapult launcher and the tube holding the line both swivel into whatever direction needed to be fired. Before launch, you press the Lifeline tube up, so the reel is exposed. There it's ready for launch. In the directions, they tell you to keep your launch trajectory at a slight angle to get your grappling hook to catch onto your desired object. Use your viewfinder here to help you sight your objective. The tubes on the sides are designed to slide in the holders for more positioning. That helps you out. If you want to store the launcher so the tubes are in an upright position, it just takes a little positioning and wiggling and adjusting. I would also add a little more caution as well with this toy because of the age of the plastic and those tiny little metal rivet joints that are mounted into the plastic. It's a big section that's very prone to being able to break. The freshly installed replaced elastic belt will definitely hold the pack snugly against the figure as it was intended. The original clasps are still holding strong as designed. My substitute mirrored surface, I think, turned out to be a good representable replica, especially taking into consideration the age of this vintage toy. It seems to fit in versus standing out. The decal on this one is in really nice shape, but if you need to replace one, there are plenty of replica decals available out there. Let's take a minute here and look at the original paperwork that was included with this action-packed toy. Each of the accessories in the line had similar folded booklets that explained how to assemble or use the toy. Keeping paperwork documents like these things in protective sleeves like this one is definitely a good investment for your collection. These instruction sheets are almost frame worthy, and I really love the graphics on these. This pack instruction, it depicts 6 items in the line at the time here, and I have a drag bike as well that isn't shown here. It looks good on the figure, and unlike some of the other action packs, it isn't so heavy that it pulls the figure down. You can put it on the figure, and the action figure can still stand up on its own. The launcher button on the side here is kind of hair triggered, so it's ready to go. It's time for the big moment you've been waiting for, to see this catapult launcher fire off. And we'll play out another look at it here, but in a slow motion mode. And I'm taking a top-down view here, looking into the viewer compartment this way too. It's a pretty cool set, and I can easily understand why so many of these are in really rough shape now. It's because it was such a creative, fun set for the Adventure Team G.I. Joe figures. Sears at the time created an exclusive for their Christmas wish book. They paired this catapult launcher and the signal flasher into a boxed exclusive set for them. Through the catalog, you could get them. They were available individually, but packaged together, they were marketed as the Danger Alert set for $3.99. The signal flasher is pretty fun. I have a separate episode here where I cleaned this one up and restored it. It's definitely would have been a fun set to get as a gift as a kid. That would have been pretty cool. So there's my look and restoration process for this Action Pack Lifeline Catapult set from the Hasbro G.I. Joe Adventure Team line of toys. It's the creative and imaginative little sets like this one that keep this line still one of my favorite of the vintage toys. So be sure to share this episode with fellow collectors that you know or on your favorite social media. Click the like and subscribe so you can keep in touch with new episodes when they come out. And if you're really interested in getting a little bit more out of the channel, you can become one of the behind-the-scenes subscribers, supporters here, and help the channel grow and be an active part of it. But as always, thanks for watching. Toy Tinker Tim.